Anyone who's been gaming from a young age has those titles they grew up with and will never forget. Whether they were a classic that will go down in history or a forgotten treasure only you remember, they remain a part of our childhood. So I thought it'd be fun to look back at some games I grew up with and share why I remember them so fondly. And who knows, maybe we share some of the same childhood classics, or maybe I can show you some you missed out on. The Super Nintendo was my first real console. While I have a vague memory of the NES with my dad and some Genesis a neighbor had, the SNES was the first time a console was mine, but not entirely. I was still at the age where we didn't get to pick the games we got. That was up to mommy and daddy. And when they saw Disney's Aladdin on the shelf, they knew that's safe for little baby Anthony. Disney's Aladdin was released on the Super Nintendo in 1993. It's obviously based on the animated movie of the same name. And yes, I now have to say animated because you know they're gonna make a whole live-action version of Aladdin and screw everything up, and people in the future are gonna get all confused. Anyways, the game follows our titular character Aladdin through a loose interpretation of the film's story, meeting up with the Princess Jasmine, discovering lost treasures, getting trapped inside the genie's lamp. The keyword is loose interpretation, but it feels like an adventure that makes sense in the world of Aladdin. It was created by Capcom, who at that time were on a roll, with Aladdin being no exception. Shinji Mikami of later Resident Evil fame was even a designer on the game, so it's no surprise Aladdin turned out to be a very solid experience. The game is a classic 2D platformer where you have to make your way through each level, jumping on enemies and avoiding obstacles. A simple design, but a solid one from beginning to end, striking a fair challenge throughout its 7 stages and never becoming overly frustrating. You'll die here and there, and poor Boo will be fucking traumatized, God. But it's not unfair. Just put in a code and pick up where you left off.
Aladdin had that.
Yeah, but it was only 4.
Yeah, it was great.
It was like Jasmine and Boo Aladdin. You know, it's like, I get it.
I remember beating this game as a kid, while other movie-based games on the Super Nintendo were fucking impossible. I loved Aladdin's ability to glide if you found the right power-up, providing some help if you messed up a jump or if you just wanted to fly around, and an entire stage is dedicated to flying with your girl Jasmine on a magic carpet ride. Yeah! Hey, after a few challenging levels, it was always fun to get to this point and just relax for a minute before the shit got real. While not too hard, the final level and its boss are presented very well, making it feel epic and cinematic. There was also a completely different Aladdin game for the Sega Genesis that I've never played, though there is a debate about which Aladdin is better. Looking at the animation, it does look very impressive for the time. This was back when different console platforms had completely different versions of the same game, but I can't tell you which one is better. But I can say the Super Nintendo version was a solid game and one I will never forget from my childhood. If you want to check it out today, you're kind of limited on options, as the game's only been released for the Super Nintendo in 1993 and then re-released on the Game Boy Advanced in 2004, although the GBA release seems to have been slightly scaled down and zoomed in, leading to a lesser experience on the handheld. I'm sure every kid would love to have every game console available, but when you're 5, you get what you get, and you're grateful for it unless you're a little shit. When I was 5, I had the Super Nintendo, but at that time, it meant no Sonic games unless it was some Chinese knockoff crap. Oh, but hold on, what's that? In the distance, do you see it? That giant, white box? That Pentium 2 family PC? And it was this PC platform that allowed me to play many game series I didn't have consoles for. Halo, Metal Gear Solid, and before all of that, Sonic CD. God, I love that intro. I used to just start a new game just to watch it. Sonic CD was released in 1993, and my god, I was 1, and later released for the Windows platform in 1996, which is the version that I played. Story goes, after the original Sonic the Hedgehog was a big hit, Sega of course wanted to make a sequel. A team in America started working on this Sonic 2, and a team in Japan started working on an extended version for the upcoming Sega CD. But as time went on, the sales of Sonic 2 were lower than expected in Japan, so this Japanese Sonic 2 was changed into its own game called Sonic CD. So Sonic CD became a somewhat alternative Sonic 2. Sonic CD is a platform game that follows Sonic the Hedgehog, the definition of 90s tood mascots, trying to save his girlfriend, but not quite girlfriend, Amy. This game was actually Amy's first appearance, a character that would become a mainstay later in the series. The scene of Amy being kidnapped was a nice little addition at the time, giving more context than just "Stop Dr. Robotnik." This, along with an improved soundtrack quality and the addition of sprite scaling, were made possible by the Sega CD add-on for the Sega Genesis, and later by the super-powered Pentium 2 processor in my Quantex computer.
If you're looking for a great computer package, we have a limited offer available right now.
And not sponsored, by the way. I think they've been out of business for at least 15 years, something like that.
So call now, and believe me when I say we want your business today.
Now, in 1996 or 7, when I played the game, I had no idea it was from a Sega Genesis CD add-on. I was just happy to play a Sonic game. Returning to it today, though, it's no Sonic 2, let's be honest. I've heard time and time again that Sonic CD is one of the best 2D Sonic games ever made, but in this series, being unforgettable isn't always a good thing. I'll never forget the frustration of this game's level design. Even now, as a well-adjusted adult human male with an above-average hand-eye coordination, certain parts of the game are just ridiculous. There are so many bouncy pads and bouncy floors and bouncy fucking things. They just send you in every which way and it really starts to get annoying. Sonic 2, on the other hand, has a certain flow to it, keeping the character moving forward like a Sonic game should. Sonic CD likes to halt the player's momentum constantly, and while you could agree it makes it a better platformer, I don't think it makes it a better Sonic game. They stuck with the original game's 3 acts per stage theme, and I really feel like they overstay their welcome. 2 stages, then boss is always perfect. There's also a time travel mechanic where each level has a past, present, and future setting with slight changes, and I'm sure completionists use this feature to get everything in the game, but for me, the average player, it never really added much. It's not a bad game, though. It has moments that shine and get Sonic moving, the soundtracks, both of them, are pretty awesome, and the special stage blew my mind as a kid. It looked like the future of gaming. It was 3D, not that fake Sonic 2 tunnel shit. So while it's not one of my favorite Sonic games, it was the first one that I actually owned. And if you want to play Sonic CD today, it should be easy since it's been ported to almost everything, and the newer ports for Android and even on Steam were done by Christian Whitehead, who also helped on Sonic Mania. Sonic CD is on the Sega CD, Windows PC, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, iOS devices, Windows phones, if you have one of those, Android devices, Apple TVs, and even the Ouya. Remember that? So check it out. Maybe a different type of Sonic is for you. So I was going to talk about one of my favorite childhood games here, a game called Dream Course. But then I realized it's a Nintendo game with a Nintendo character, and since Nintendo has their heads so far up their so let's talk about another favorite game of mine.
Crazy Taxi!
Yes, Crazy Taxi on a console from a company that supports its community and fans.
Sega!
The Dreamcast was a special console for me, and we can tell that story another day. But it's home to some of my favorite childhood games, and Crazy Taxi was one of them. Released in 1999 in arcades and later in 2000 for the Dreamcast, Crazy Taxi is a kind of action racing game where you assume the role of the mighty and revered taxi driver.
Axel. All right, let's get it on.
For those who don't know, back in the day, people used to call what they would call a cab company, and they would send a yellow car to your house to take you where you want to go. That's right, no phone apps, no Ubers, no Lyfts, no random sketchy people. Instead, you had sketchy professionals. Your job as a crazy taxi driver is to pick up customers and take them to their chosen destination as quickly as possible. And that's it. It's not a complex game, but it does its simple premise so over the top and crazy, you can't help but have fun. The driving physics are loose and forgiving, letting you keep the speed up, except for when the car starts peeling out for like 30 seconds for no reason. I never liked that. But other than that, speed. The graphics for the time weren't crazy, but they are detailed enough to give you a sense of where you are, which is important. As you play short rounds of either 3, 5, or 10 minutes, you'll learn the best routes and shortcuts to your customers' destinations to get more points. I don't really care about points though. What I cared about was driving around this awesome open world city. I got my Dreamcast in 2001, and at this time, open world games weren't the dime a dozen genre they are today. Games like Grand Theft Auto 3 were just breaking onto the scene, and I wanted to play.
You're an efficient killer. I like that in a man.
Little did I know there were actually Grand Theft Auto games for the Dreamcast, but they were that top-down 2D style, and it's just not the same as a true 3D world. So instead, I made do with what I had. Crazy Taxi was my Grand Theft Auto. I know it's not the same, but as a kid it was the closest thing I had, and I played the hell out of it. Crashing into traffic, jumping off of highways, all the same stuff I'd do in GTA a few years later. Something that also kept me coming back was the super high energy soundtrack, made up of just a few licensed songs from The Offspring and Bad Religion. You would think these few songs would get repetitive, but they fit the action so perfectly, I never felt that way. Crazy Taxi and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 alone are responsible for most of my musical taste, even today. And as soon as I learned what a LimeWire was, I downloaded every last song. If you want to check out Crazy Taxi today, which you totally should, you again have tons of options. The arcade, Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Windows, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and even iOS and Android, which are actually the versions I totally recommend. Crazy Taxi's simple pick-up and play design makes it perfect as a phone game. The controls don't need to be super precise so the touchscreen works, and you can just drive around for a few minutes and move on. Crazy Taxi is a simple and great experience on any platform, and a childhood favorite I'll never forget. And there you have it, guys, 3 random games from my childhood. If you liked this video, please let me know. I thought it would be fun to look back and see if we played any of the same stuff as kids, or maybe I can recommend you some awesome games you might have missed. Also, let me know some of your favorite childhood games, and who knows, maybe I'll feature them in the future! Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, just trying out some new things. If you did, hit that like button to support the show and subscribe to the channel if you're not. And if you want to go above and beyond, consider supporting me on Patreon. That being said, here's a special thanks to everyone who donated over $5. Oh yeah, listen to that funky beat. Xavier Charlotte, thank you. They Call Me Pepper, thank you. Curtis Wilson, thank you. Deep Tech, thank you. Luke Avewater, thank you. Jay Bodane, thank you. I'm gonna get it this time. Carl Sykes. Ooh, did I get it? Hope I got it. Drew Iterator Rick, thank you. Julio Juarez, JJ Tube, thank you. Darian A. Mann, thank you. NS Kai on what? Thank you so much. Leave a comment below letting me know how I say your name. I'm so sorry. TJ Grum, thank you. Omar Diaz, thank you. Riley Davidson, thank you. Paul Witowski, thank you. I am $2, thank you. Ryan O'Connell Shadowcloud, thank you. And Frederick Moeller, thank you. Oh yeah, let's go out on that funky beat. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. I'll see you next time.